Welcome to episode 565 of the Aussie Tech Heads, recorded on the 4th of January 2018. Aussie Tech Heads is brought to you by ATH Web Hosting at athwebhosting.com.au. Servers operate on SSD drives, immediate activation, SSL certificates, Aussie support, domain registration, and easy install of WordPress, Joomla, and Drupal. I'm your host, Jason Oakley, and we have back again Australia's two top podcasters. I'm joined this week by Will Tompkinson. Is that really you?
No, it's just an assimilation.
Do you exist?
I do, apparently, but only when Glenn's not here. So are we the same person? Can we say this? Or
Simulation or assimilation?
Simulation?
He's been bored. How's stuff?
Hot. Bloody hot.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been ridiculous. It was on Saturday, it was 39 or 41 and 110% humidity.
You can keep it.
Didn't know that was actually possible until I didn't know you could have more than 100% humidity without it raining, but apparently you can.
Is your AC still alive?
Yeah, well, actually, that's one good thing about this place. Since we've moved in, I've now got basically everything running off solar except the actual fans in the rooms. Yep. They're still running off mains, and the aircon's running off mains. Pretty much everything else runs off solar. So it basically means when we want to run the aircon, we don't have to worry about the power bill because we've effectively neutralized it. So it's really good when we want to run it. But it's a big one. It's like big 7K, whatever.
What are those box ones in the kitchen?
Yeah, it's good. I'm glad. With Bubba, obviously, running around the house, and we can't close doors because he goes and opens them. So it keeps the house, I wouldn't say it keeps the house cold, but it keeps it manageable. Like, you don't feel like you're about to keel over. So
yeah, mine's okay, but I've just got that box one, and it runs the solar during the day, but I don't have any battery like you've got. So once the sun's gone, power bill goes.
Well, see, I make enough. I put nearly 4 kilowatts in. I got 4 kilowatts. It's actually interesting. I've got a 3.5 kilowatt system, but I was doing some research the other day, and apparently you can overrun them by 20%, and they're happy with it. So mine's now a 4 kilowatt system because I threw some more panels up there the other day. Nice. Which means because literally there's nothing running off it during the day, we're putting in, even though we're only getting that crappy 6 cents or whatever it is rebate off the
Should
solar.
Be 12 now. Change your electricity supplier,
that did the other day. Yeah, and I think it actually did. You're right. It was 6, I think. And then went up to 12. But it's still half. You pay 25 or something is what you're paying. But because we're putting enough in, we can use the aircon for a couple of days and nights straight, and it negates it. But I'd hate to think like using that aircon without solar. I mean, man, that'd be horrendous. But no, we're lucky. This house. I don't know if how many listeners know that we actually a couple months ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, 3.5 months ago, something like that, we actually moved. We actually bought a house, and we got lucky. We moved in. It's fully insulated. It's actually double insulated. It's got insulation under the iron and on the ceiling as well, so it's double insulated. It's raised up off the ground. It's timber floor. It's nice, so it's even in the middle of summer, even without the aircon on, it's actually respectable. You can live in here.
Sweet.
But compared to some of the places we've been in, like the last house we're in, if we had been in that, I don't know, we would have probably just been into one of the bedrooms with a portable aircon and locked ourselves in there most likely. And paid $1,000 a month. And paid $1,000 a month for the privilege.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of glad we've done it the way we've done it. But no, it's other than the heat, it's not too bad. I was lucky enough to work all over Christmas, so
Me too. I'm taking next week off. My sister's coming for a holiday with her kids.
I'm taking the Australia Day that weekend.
Yep.
And the week after. So that's my holiday. But yeah, it's apparently everybody else wasn't working because we were so damn busy. Wow. I thought I'd be nice and cruisy. I can just sit back here, I'll relax. I'll get a couple of customers.
Ring. Ring.
It was insane. It was absolutely insane. So But so I'm looking forward to having a holiday. I'll tell you that. But yeah, it's just unfortunate that every time the Glenn's on, I'm usually either getting home when the show's just about to start, or something happens. So,
well, you're here for the first show of the year. That's got to count for something, right?
Yeah, well, and Glenn's not. See, that's how much he loves us. Hey, Glenn's not here. We can bag apple.
Well, nobody was here last week except me.
Yeah,
But apple is wonderful.
Hey?
Apple's wonderful. They can't do any wrong.
Except for the things they meant to doing wrong, and somehow everybody still loves them. But yeah, no, it's been fun. So anyway, enough dribble. Let's get on. Do we want to start with an email from a
sounds good,
from a listener, saying as you people don't believe it, we think we make everything up. We don't make everything
you
up.
Listeners don't believe we have listeners.
Well, apparently Glenn doesn't listen to the show because we're about to answer a question I've answered a million times. But anyway,
once more from the top. I want and a two.
So we got an email, or Glenn got an email. Was it last week or something like that? And saying he's listening to a recent podcast and is mentioning that the iPhone 6 is getting slow. Well, there's another story. And that this is Glenn's considering getting a new phone.
Something as recent as a 6 should not be getting slow, and we'll explain later why it is. But it's not old. It's not like 10 years old. It's not like 5 years old.
And Andrew was saying that he recently got one of these Xiaomi's, whatever they are, for paying $329 or whatever it was on eBay. Now, the funny thing is, Glenn then proceeded to ask me, "Hey, is this a decent phone? And should I get one? And should I get one for my daughter as a second phone and whatever?"
Yes, you should.
I know for a fact that on this show several times I've mentioned the merits of these phones, and for the price, they are damn unbeatable. The particular one he's talking about is the Xiaomi Mi A1, which is a relatively newer one. It's 4 gig of RAM, 64 gig ROM, 12 meg front and 12 meg rear camera. 5 meg front and 12 meg plus 12 meg rear, which means it's actually got the dual sensors.
Right.
It actually takes two photos, two focal points at the same time, and combines them to give you a clearer picture. Got Snapdragon processor, 5.5-inch display, something that no other top tier manufacturer, I guess you'd call it, dual SIM cards.
Yep.
And a rear fingerprint sensor, which they seem to like doing on those phones. It's actually, if you would get a normal phone, like a whatever it would be, it's pretty much in the center where you pick the phone up naturally and touch it. That's where the fingerprint sensor is.
Not like mine over here?
No, not up there. Not where mine is. Mine's on the home button down there. But it's basically right smack bang in the middle. So as you're holding the phone, you basically pressing the fingerprint sensor by default by picking the phone up. Now that one's what do we say that one's? That one's $329, and they're a pretty decent phone.
Now those are Aussie prices, right?
Yeah, that is. But one of the phone I was actually going to buy before I got the Note. The only reason I got the Note, honestly, is the Note 5. I think it's one. The only reason I got this is because we had a flood over the other house, or had water storm damage, and the insurance company upgraded us to these. But I was literally going to buy these Redmi Note 4s. Same sort of deal, 64 gig RAM, 64 gig ROM. They got 8 octa-core Snapdragons. 4 gig RAM, 64 gig ROM. I'll get it right in a minute. They got the big 5.5-inch display. They've got dual SIM cards. It's got dual micro SD card. It's, the cameras, you look on YouTube at the people who are using these for actual professional video and photography, movies and stuff like that, because the cameras are such high contrast cameras. They take really beautiful pictures. Mm-hmm. Once again, it's got the thing in the right spot, but it's only, $260. These prices are unheard of for...
No, you have to spend $1,000 minimum for a phone these days that's decent quality, right?
Well, even any of the tier 1 providers, your Samsung, even your Nokias and your... What else is still around there? What else is still around? Oh,
Not much.
The HTCs. You're looking at least and what, even for a 2-year-old phone now, they're still commanding what, $500?
Yeah.
You know, so and these run Android. They run the plain Android. Some of them, there is skins that some of them come with, but you can drop back to the default, just the base Android. They got massive batteries in them. Like this thing, I think from memory had a 4100 milliamp battery, which is twice the size of the one in my Note, which means you're going to get like a light user is going to get a week.
Yeah.
Heavy user is going to get at least 2 days. I know one guy on there on YouTube. He was split screening, watching a movie, watching YouTube in HD on the top screen, and playing games on the bottom half, and he got an entire day out of doing that.
Good.
You know, so they come with everything: GPS, Bluetooth, all that sort of stuff, and they're a relatively decent phone. They got, I think, a 2-year manufacturer warranty on them. They've been around long enough now that they're an established company, and if you actually do the research into them, I believe last year they won like one of China's precedented, new up and comer start company award things.
Oh, okay.
Like the what's the other one? The Huawei or Huawei?
Huawei.
Huawei, that one. That's another one. They're probably slightly lower spec hardware, but once again, over the couple of years they've been out, they've proved themselves to be a pretty bulletproof little device. They do all sorts of stuff. They do waterproof ones. They do whatever. But so the short answer is yes. You don't need to. You don't need to spend $1,000 on a phone or $2,000,
especially for kids.
Well, even for kids, and that's an interesting point. There's these guys do a they call it a seniors phone, but it's ideal for kids because it's got basically it doesn't do much more than it's got a relatively small screen. It's got an actual physical keyboard on it. Well, they do two. They do one that's got a physical keyboard and one that's just got a smaller screen, like the old HTC Mozarts. Mm-hmm. But it's a lower power device. Still got a reasonable camera on it, but it's got a lot of preset stuff that you can only call numbers that are in your phone book. You can only do this. You know, there's a lot of things you can lock down on it because it's designed for seniors who get confused easily.
Yeah.
And you can just have, whatever you want to set up in there. Long battery life, all that sort of good, really good reception, like big antennas. So it's actually got a slight stub antenna, so you can actually get proper signal out of it. And I think it's, last I looked, was about $95.
Yeah.
And it does do Facebook and it does do basic stuff like that, but it's not really designed for that. But the thing is, it's also waterproof, it's drop proof, it's shock proof, it's dust proof, so that's perfect. Proof. Yeah, pretty much. So if you're going to buy a kid a phone, you can buy them a reasonable quality phone at a reasonable price and get the best out of both worlds. Get them a phone that's going to work and do what they want to do, but also last more than 3 months without them breaking it, So, yeah, look, and then you compare it to, I said like $1,000 for the average sort of Samsung, up to $2,000 for, was it nearly $2,000, I think, wasn't it? 1,800 or something for the latest iPhone?
Something like that.
Which is just insane for a 3-year-old piece of technology.
Yeah.
I know people hate me every time I say that, but it's true. So look, these days, yes, there's still a lot of dodgy phones you can buy. There's a lot of, there's a lot of really dodgy phones coming from China, especially if they say iPhone. There was one a mate of mine got that said latest iPhone, latest operator, whatever it was, iOS, blah, 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 and installed, whatever. And he got it, and it was like this really ancient Snapdragon processor with like a 2 meg camera and Android version 1 or 2 skinned to look like iOS. It was so bad. And it was so bad, like it was actually unusable. That's how bad this thing was.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, yep, you deserve every bit of that. You buy an iPhone from China, you deserve everything.
iPhone X, $1,579 for the 64 gig version, or with 256 gig, $1,829.
Yeah, I thought it was about $1,800. Yeah, which is that's just insane for what is now. That's been out 2 months or something now, so it's effectively an outdated piece of hardware already.
Yep.
that's, and I mean, it was our dad when it came out. But and that's just a ridiculous amount of money. $2,000, you can buy 6 or 8 of these phones. You can buy a phone a year, have the latest phone they release every year, have a better phone, and have a brand new phone.
Yeah. Still be cheaper.
And still be cheaper. So, yeah. But,
so should we talk about what Apple's been doing with theirs, by the way?
Yeah. Just quickly, before you say that, I think somehow my sister's phone slipped through the crack. She has the original iPhone.
Yep.
And it's still on the original battery. And she still gets 3 or 4 days use out of it.
That's not possible. Ask Apple, they'll tell you.
It's insane. I can't believe it. No, every time she grabs it, her phone rings. I'm like, seriously, you still have that thing? It's a trooper. I mean, the camera, like, it's so funny. You take a photo, and they weren't great cameras. The first iPhones, everyone knows that they weren't a great camera.
Yeah.
But what's worse is it's not a great camera that now has a really scratched lens on a not a great screen with a screen protector on it. So you take a photo of something and then you pinch and zoom into the photo and you have no idea what that photo was you just took. Yeah, it's so funny. But she loves it. She can't even use, like, half the apps don't work on anymore. It just refuses to update anymore. It just, like, connects to Wi-Fi and goes, really?
Yeah. Kill me. Please kill me.
Should send it back to Apple and make them pay for it for a museum piece or something.
Yeah. They probably need it.
It's probably the only one working.
Apple defrauded iPhone users by slowing devices without warning to compensate for poor battery performance, according to 8 lawsuits filed in various federal courts in the week since the company opened up about the year-old software change. The tweak may have led iPhone owners to misguided attempts to resolve issues over the last year, the lawsuits contend. All the lawsuits filed in U.S. district courts of California, New York, and Illinois seek class action to represent potentially millions of iPhone owners nationwide. A similar case was lodged in an Israeli court on Monday. Apple did not respond to an email seeking comments on the filings. The company acknowledged last week for the first time in detail that the operating system updates released since last year for the iPhone 6, iPhone 6S, iPhone SE, and iPhone 7, including a feature to smooth out power supply from batteries that are cold, old, or low on charge. Phones without adjustment would shut down abruptly because of a precaution designed to prevent components from getting fried, Apple said. The disclosure followed a December 18 analysis by Primate Labs, which develops an iPhone performance measuring app that identified blips in processing speed and concluded that a software change had to be behind them. One of the lawsuits filed Thursday in San Francisco said the battery's inability to handle the demand created by processor speeds without the software patch was a defect. Rather than curing the battery defect by providing a free battery replacement for all affected iPhones, Apple sought to mask the battery defect, according to the complaint. Now, in the US, you'll be able to have your battery replaced if it's older than a few months and seems to be slowing down your phone. And if you have a brand new battery put in, the software will detect that the battery is new and give you back full speed again without having to change the software, without having to uninstall anything, without making any changes at all. It's just take out one battery, put in another one, because they've all got serial numbers and internal hardware ID. And so the software goes, well, this one is from one of the older ones, so we better slow it down just in case, because the phone might overheat and shut down, and then you can't make any emergency calls or call Aunt Irma and see how she's doing. And now we pass this over to battery expert, Mr. T.
I'm eating chocolate. Leave me alone. Yeah, look.
Why don't we see Android slowing down their phones because of crappy batteries?
Because they're replaceable. I think
my one, I can't take it out.
Yeah, they are. They're actually pretty easy to get out. Look, they call it, and it's also interesting that it's only a relative, as you said, it's only a relative new thing. iPhone 6, I think.
Yeah.
Or at least that they've admitted. I believe it was earlier because I know a lot of iPhone users who, after 12 months, their phone mysteriously just slows down. And
it's not supposed to affect iPads either, but my iPad, 3rd generation iPad mini, with Retina. Was the first with Retina that came out. Is now dog slow. If I'm typing in Facebook, I click on the text area, and it goes zhup, and pops up the keyboard, and then I go, "Hi, how's everyone doing?" And then it goes, "Hi, how's everyone doing?" And then I go delete, and then I change it to a different keyboard, say to put emoji on something. Wait, pops up, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. And I thought it was at first because I had third-party keyboards like Swipe and things like that. So I took all of those out, and I was like, darn, third-party keyboard's not working. But now I'm back to the Apple-only one, which came with it, and it is dog slow as well. So I think there's something that's affecting the older iPads as well. I don't know if they say that it's definitely not anything to do with this feature, but it's getting slow.
Yeah, I wonder the same thing because my sister who's got the iPhone 1, she's got a relatively new, it's only a couple of year old iPad. My brother-in-law is a little bit older, it's a couple of years prior to that. If they leave theirs on charge, like they've had it on charge all night, first thing in the morning, leave it on charge, and they're doing stuff, it's really quick. If they unplug it and then 6 hours later use it, it's half the speed.
Well, mine's plugged in 24/7 into charge. So when I'm typing, it's actually plugged in, and I'm typing on the keyboard while it's still plugged in, because I've just got it folded with the
It's a heat
cover.
thing.
Open the cover and it folds over underneath it, and it sits up there like that.
See, it's possible. Like the way lithium batteries work in all these devices, no matter what device it is, they've all got two things. They've all got temperature sensors, and they've all got what they call, basically battery management of some description, whether it's battery monitoring or battery management. There's some sort of controlling circuit in there.
Yep.
And so they're monitoring the ambient temperature, they monitor the actual cell temperature, and they monitor the current going in and out of the cells versus what it's expecting to see in the cell.
Right.
As we know, batteries deplete over time. It doesn't matter what the technology of the battery is, all batteries over time deplete, and they lose capacity.
Chemical reactions that eventually burn.
It slows down, eventually stops. And all batteries are the same, regardless of what it is. But because the batteries in the lithium, anything with lithiums in it is monitored quite heavily. So depending on, like, if they say, okay, I don't want to see a greater difference of 5 degrees between ambient temperature and battery temperature, which I know some of the older HTC handsets, if you use them in a car holder and they'll get it hitting in the sun, the sun would hit the back of the cover, and being a metal cover on those older phones would actually heat the battery pack up, and the phones would shut down. Because
I've seen before on phones where it says this phone is getting too hot, shutting down, and you can shut it down and wait for it to cool down. But I wonder if this is what they're trying to get around stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. So sometimes it's actual, like, CPU of the phone's getting too hot. 9 times out of 10 when you see them do that, it's actually the battery sensors getting too hot. And they go into shutdown to prevent thermal runaway. Once a lithium battery hits a certain temperature, it literally catches fire internally and goes into what they call thermal runaway. It's a self-propelling fire because it has its own oxidizers in there. So they want to keep the temperature down. But I think sometimes they've got that threshold set way too low. Now, as a battery ages, naturally, it gets higher resistance internally. So when you're charging and using a battery that's older, it naturally generates heat faster.
Right.
So on some of these older devices that do a lot of the heat checking, and if the heat algorithms aren't correct, just the simple fact of using a phone with an older battery can quite often trigger the phone to slow down or go into a limp mode or into a power saving mode to try and reduce the battery's temperature. So a lot of the devices with older batteries will slow down just by the nature of the way the batteries work. But in Apple's case, you can tell they were slowing it because even on a lot of devices where you would change the battery, if the battery wasn't done the correct way and then had the reprogramming part of it done, like the average backyard person could change a phone, but not everybody knew that they had to then go through and redo the programming to basically tell the phone it had a new battery.
Yep.
If they didn't do that, the phone wasn't any quicker. So you could immediately tell that they're working off. The other way that they monitor batteries is they do a cycle count, and this is dominant mostly in laptops where you've got a multiple cell battery.
Right.
What they'll do is they say, okay, after 1,500 cycles, we're going to say your battery's dead, regardless of the actual condition of the battery. We know the batteries are good for at least 2,000 cycles, so we'll call it 1,500. We'll call it done, and we know we've got an overhead, a safety margin overhead in there. So if you plug your laptop in for 10 minutes and unplug it and plug it in for 10 minutes and unplug it, every time you do that, it counts as a cycle.
Right.
So the people who are moving from desk to desk and table to table and office to office and plugging their laptops in and out all the time aren't going to get as long out of their laptop battery as a person who plugs it in once a day and lets it go flat. Because they run off a cycle counter. And I think Apple might be doing something similar. So when you replace the battery, it's not necessarily looking for a new battery. It still thinks it's at that cycle limit of the previous battery. So it still thinks, hey, that battery's had 1,500 cycles or 1,000 cycles or whatever they're setting their cycle counter to.
Yep.
And without resetting that counter, it still thinks the battery's old. So it's not going to improve performance. But once you reset that counter, you could leave the old battery in there, reset the system, and it thinks it's a new battery. Yeah, well, I mean, they always build a big overhead in there anyway. But in theory,
is a lot of this because we're just trying to jam so much crap in there and try and get faster and faster in smaller spaces, and there's just not enough air getting through, and battery cells are getting compacted so much to try and jam in more.
Yeah, it's basically a combination of all that. It's all those factors put together, plus the fact we demand more of the devices now. So the batteries that are going in are getting worked harder. Like if you're running your phone, like even though they're still within their limits, like a normal lithium cell wants to run between 2.8 volts is depleted, 4.2 volts is fully charged.
Yep.
So as a safety margin, what they'll do is they'll go, okay, we're going to run the battery between 2.9 volts and 4.1 volts to stay right off the top and right off the bottom limits of the battery, which will protect the battery a bit, which will help do it. And in the old days, though, like the old days, 5-6 years ago, when we weren't demanding as much of the battery, they would run the battery between 3 volts and 4 volts. So you had this massive overhead, so the batteries lasted longer. As we're demanding more of the batteries, they're moving those safety thresholds further and further and further to the end of the spectrum, which is working the batteries harder, which is also another reason that batteries are tending to fail.
Yep.
I see a lot of customers coming in now with 2-year-old phones, basically smack on 2 years, just because once a day they're being charged and discharged. So there's your effectively 1,000 cycles, or if you're doing it probably on a weekend where you're using it more, you might even be charging it twice. So let's say you're getting 1,000 cycles in 2 years.
Yep.
So it's almost like it's hitting its cycle counter at the end of 2 years.
That's it.
And whereas prior they were setting it to a 2,000 count cycle counter, so people were getting 4 years out of their battery. And they're like, but I haven't changed. I'm still doing the same thing I was doing. Well, you might be, but all
a
the
lot
safety.
of people are playing like 4K movies and games in 4K that are full rendered 3D gaming while running Facebook in the background, or maybe split screening and watching movie, playing game, like you said that guy on YouTube was.
Yeah,
and that's just going to
and that's the thing. Like, not only are we talking cycle life here now, but we're introducing heat factors. Whereas heat wasn't a thing in phones 5 years ago. You could leave the screen on full brightness, you could leave it plugged in, you could work the thing as hard as you wanted to, and you could still hold the phone. I know with my phone, with my Note, if I work this thing really, really hard by either doing like a video edit on it, or by doing, as you say, a lot of some of the really intense 3D gameplay on it, after half an hour, it gets pretty bloody hot.
Yeah. And then the phone rings and you're like, oh, crap.
Yeah, I don't really want to put it anywhere.
Hello? I'll put it on speakerphone, okay?
It's worse with the case too. Cases, and so this is the other thing too. A lot of people running life cases and stuff now, which amplify the problem because there's even less airflow getting to the phone.
Yeah.
And as I said, like using it in the car holder, sitting up in the sun is bad. I mean, my car holder sits just below my aircon vent, so the phone actually gets the aircon running over it to keep it cool.
Yeah. That's why I always wanted to have a separate GPS, and people are like, just use your phone. I'm like, this is Australia. Do you know how hot it gets here in Australia?
Well, the
So
GPS suffers
driving
exactly
for
the same
4
fate.
hours.
Yeah, well, that's the thing though. GPS suffers the same fate. The only you'll
But
notice a lot of
my phone
GPSs.
can still take phone calls
Yeah, that's right.
even if the GPS is dead.
You'll notice a lot of GPSs are really big and bulky, and that's not because they have to be. That's to try and get airflow happening through the case to try and keep them cool.
Yeah.
And you'll notice if you ever take the back off a GPS, there's usually a good 6 or 8 or 10 mil clearance on that back plate without touching anything, and just a few vents in there,
Yeah.
just to try and keep the direct sunlight and keep the heat down.
Yeah. If my
Um,
GPS dies, it doesn't matter so much to me. But
Yeah,
if my
that's
phone dies, just because it was being used as GPS, that's terrible.
It's the same as dash cams. You see a lot of these on the market as Gators and a lot of these really small dash cams.
Yep.
Well, that's fine in Europe. But in Australia, they're no good. You need the big, chunky dash cams because, once again, there's not much more happening inside, but there's a lot more airspace inside, which is keeping the thing cool.
I've thought about dash cams, but I think if I wanted to get one, I want to get one of those that go on your rear vision mirror.
Yep.
It does mirror and dash cam, because when I've got this great big thing sitting up here, hi, please break into my car and steal this electronics. Or if you got it looks like a rear vision mirror, then it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's just a mirror. They won't be so enticed.
There's a lot of the integrated ones you can get now that are really good. Or there's a lot of I like the ones that have the detach, like they have separate cameras. The actual recording DVR device sits under the dash.
Oh, okay.
Sits out of the way, and then it's just got 2 pinhole cameras, one that points forward and one that points back, and you can mount them even externally if you want. You can put them on your number plate, so you can't see them at all.
Yep.
And that way, there's even the cool part about those is I've got one that's got 3 cameras on it, so it's got one that goes on your number plate on the front, one on your number plate on the rear, and the one that goes you mount on your dash but facing you.
Yep.
And
so you can see you go, we're gonna die. Oh, shit.
Well, no, it's motion activated. So if somebody breaks into your car, the camera starts recording. And what's the first thing people do? They go to the glove box, or they go to the front of the car to find something, and so they look straight at the camera.
Yep. Bingo,
So,
gotcha.
that's it.
So from that story, for people interested, Apple is going to have reduced the out of warranty battery replacements in Australia from $119 to $39, and will replace it even if it's not really, 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 really needed. But if you just bought your iPhone X, they're not going to replace it today. You might have to wait a while, but if you got a
like a
6
month.
SE or 6S or 7 or something, then you should be able to go in and pay $39 and get a new battery, which means your phone will just go bing, full speed again. Magic.
And it's interesting. It's an interesting it's an interesting move on their behalf, I have to say. Because Apple never does anything that's
No. And everyone's like, well, Apple is forcing it to go slow so that you'll buy an X instead of sticking with the 6, which isn't really why they did it, but it's just a happy coincidence.
Yeah, that's right. Just complete coincidence that it just coincided with the timing. They didn't mean it at all.
You got any stories there, Chair?
Yeah, look, there's a couple that there's one I'm trying to find. It was on. I literally I closed the wrong tab a minute ago. Do you think I can find it?
Wow.
It was. I'll track it down. It was the one about the Intel on i9. But Netflix. That thing that we all know and pirate. I mean, know and love.
I pay for Netflix every month, and the only person who watches
I'm glad
it
you do. It means I can use it without paying. I mean,
his dad, who lives up the road. I put it on the Roku box that I had and gave that to him. He watches Netflix, and I haven't watched Netflix in 12 months. 6 months at least.
Every so often I'll sign up for the free 30-day trial. I think it's either every 3 or 6 months they clear their flush their system.
Oh, okay.
So that lets you sign up again with the same details.
I was going to say, it's Will Tompkinson number 436 at hotmail.com.
No, it seems. I think it's about every 6 months. They must do a flush because it seems to just let you put the same details in again.
That's all right.
So unless you get 1 month every 6 months, that's not all bad.
Did you watch Mr. Robot yet?
Shut up.
That is brilliant.
I know. Shut up.
But what I've been doing is I was buying it through Google Play, when I had the Roku because it had Google Movies, but now Dad's got that. I paid for it, downloaded on PlayStation Movie Store. So
Oh,
just
okay.
binge watched season 3. Awesome. Got to watch it, Mr. T.
Yeah, I know. It's on my. Well, the problem is I've got to go back and watch season 1 again
Yeah.
because it's been that long since I've watched that. I can't even remember half of what happened there. So I'll go back and watch season 1 and start all over again.
Yeah.
But
Because of the twists. It's like, what?
yeah, well, that's what did it. I got to the final episode. I know exactly what's going on. I got this. It's all good.
What the hell was that?
I'm just going to go and start back at episode 1 again.
Well, I watched it through, and then I watched it through again with somebody else, so that helped.
Yeah.
Season 1, and then we watched season 2, and now I've just watched season 3. So
yeah, I know it's one of those things. The problem is because I know I've got to watch season 1 again. I've just been putting off watching the other ones, which all it means is now I'm getting further and further behind, and it means I've got more and more to watch. So I need a rainy week.
Did Son watch it with you?
Yeah, she loves it.
Do you like? Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, she doesn't understand most of it.
So you don't have to
It's actually
know
really
what SSH is and hacking into computers and stuff.
I think that's a good thing about it. Yeah, I think that's what works. We both enjoy it on completely different levels.
Yep.
She enjoys it.
And
yeah, she enjoys it.
A genius.
She enjoys it as a really good series.
Yep.
Just a general series, and I enjoy it as a really good nerd series.
Yeah.
You know, like we both enjoy watching it, but we both enjoy watching it for entirely different reasons. It's so strange.
I told one of my friends in Sydney, go watch this, and he's like, oh, okay. So he watched episode 1, and I was like, well, I'm going to bed now. He said, well, I was going to, but episode 2. I don't know what time I'm getting to bed now.
Scorpion's another one like that.
Yep.
Scorpion is another one of those where everybody enjoys it on a completely different level to someone else.
Oh, okay. Haven't watched that one. The Blacklist is good too. I like that.
Blacklist is good. The action in MacGyver is really good.
Oh, okay.
You've got to get your head around it a little bit because they have a lot of very similar characters. Or they actually have a lot of the same characters, but they play different roles.
Oh, yeah.
So you got to get your head around that. But MacGyver's good.
Have you watched Bright? Everyone's going off about how impressive Bright is.
I've only watched the trailers. I haven't watched the show yet.
Okay, well they've announced that they're going to do a Bright 2, so that's good.
And the other one is Lethal Weapon series.
Yep,
is quite good as well. Did
I give you enough leeway time now to find a story?
Well, I'll go back to next.
Nobody noticed, did they?
Well, I started the Netflix one, so I might as well finish it.
Netflix, what's that?
Yeah, I know, right? That's what. Wow. Alrighty. So I think this is to coincide with the they missed the boat a little bit, but I think they wanted to coincide with the Blade Runner launch. They've released a game called Netflix Infinite Runner. It's based on it's an 8-bit online game, based on some of the company's original content. You can control Pablo Escobar from Narcos, Piper Champion from Orange is the New Black, Mike Wheeler from Stranger Things, or Marco Polo from the show of the same name. It's an 8-bit gaming universe associated with these characters. Includes music and backgrounds from that particular show, whichever show you choose.
Sweet.
And yeah, I mean it's basically it's what you would expect. It's like playing a Nintendo over BBS.
Yeah.
The controls are unresponsive at best. It's laggy as all get out apparently, but they reckon it's a lot of fun. It isn't the first side project for Netflix. The last sort of best known one was the Netflix and chill button that automatically dimmed the lights and activated your phone's do not disturb setting.
Nice. What does that mean?
Yeah. So, but I guess what they're doing is they're playing. See, now, wasn't there a couple of years ago a mob that wanted to do away with the PC or the console and just play the game directly from the server?
Yeah.
remember that streaming box they had? I can't think what they were called, Aussie or something. And they were streaming directly. Yeah, that your controller effectively plugged it basically into the modem, which then sent the commands directly to the server.
Yep.
Now in the States, that worked relatively well on their internet. There wasn't, and the games were designed in such a way that a few millisecond ping wasn't, the be all and end all.
Yep.
I can't imagine that working here, but I think Netflix is trying to do something similar to that. They're just testing the waters, just seeing sort of what can be done with the hardware. And, I mean, it hasn't going to be much, but could you imagine just sitting there chilling with other Netflix users and playing poker or, just something like that, something simple, or even like a Mario Kart sort of deal. If they could get it to that sort of level where you could play a Mario Kart or a original Need for Speed style, or even something like a back on the original Nintendo, they had what's it called? I can't think of what it's called now. I've got a complete blank. There was the one that used the rope. Used to be you could play a single player or two player, or you could play a single player with the robot. Was it Dr. Mario? No. It had the pills. But you could run through a level, and then when you get to a door, the second player would control the doors and control the buttons. But if you didn't have the second player, the little robot dude sat beside you and he'd do the same thing. And I can't believe I can't remember what it's called. I used to love that game. But I could imagine it's something like that, where even though you're in separate parts of the world, two people are playing the same level game or something like that, I think it would be a good, nifty little concept. I don't know how practical it would be, but then again, I've quite often just gone into, because we use Discord a lot now.
I'm there 24/7 now, thanks to you. It's all your fault.
And quite often I'm sitting in Discord and I just wish I could interact with some of these guys just while because we're just sitting there chatting, not actually even playing a game half the time. You're like, wouldn't it be cool if we could just like play solitaire or not solitaire, play or Connect 4 or something. Just to buy the time while we're sitting there yakking at each other. Is Discord
extensible? I know they got an API. You must be able to put some gaming in there and put plugins.
Well, but you can share video, you can share gaming. So I don't see. I would imagine you could probably do. I don't know how you would do it. It would have to be.
If I could monetize it.
Speaking of, how's your watches going?
Really good.
For those who don't know, somebody's become what are you, a designer for? What is it? The
Fitbit Ionic.
Fitbit, that's it. And you're you've been promoted in the store a couple of times, haven't you?
Yes, they really like mine. So apparently do the customers. So I've thought I better get onto another one. I've got 6 in there currently. One digital, one analog that people really, 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 really love, apparently.
It's that retro thing all over again.
Yeah, and another couple of digital, couple of analog. So I've got another analog one that I was just thinking of ideas for tonight, that you can customise the colouring of the background and things like this that people like to do. So that should be a lot of fun to do.
You need one of those clocks that it's like the ones where the numbers are falling off.
Yeah,
the hands still work.
Oh yeah. People done all sorts of crazy things, but I think the main thing is people just want to see the time and the stats clear and easy, and that's what they care about most. A lot of people done all these funky things that spin around and twist and stuff, and I think it's fun, but it's not going to hit mainstream popularity quite as easy as just having the stuff you want to see immediately there. And I put on my website, aussiebyte.com, a couple of polls, and one of them was, what sort of features do you like to see on your Fitbit watch? And the top 4 that people have voted on are the 4 things that I've got in there. So I must have picked, just happened to pick I was like, well, I like these 4 things. I could put on another 3 or 4, but I don't think they're as important to people. So I was like, well, I want to have how many steps you've done in the day, what your current heart rate is, how many calories you've burned, and the temperature. and
You mean
weather.
like the old school pedometers that you used to wear on your waist?
Yeah, and those are the things that people really wanted. So
Which is why old school pedometers used to sell so well, because they literally told you all you needed to know.
yeah,
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you should mention that. Over the last sort of 6 months, or actually probably the last 12 months, actually, since about this time last year now, I think about it. Wow, it's been 12 months. I've noticed because I sell, I don't know how you guys know, I work at a battery shop and I sell batteries, but we sell off-grid stuff. We sell solar. We sell a lot of stuff, back to basic stuff. So you can either set up a little tent or a cabin or a caravan or a granny flat and get away from it, And it's amazing. 2 years ago, everybody wanted these massive, big solar systems and huge amounts of panels, and they wanted all this stuff because they wanted to run their TV, they wanted to run their Xbox, they wanted to run their air conditioning, they wanted to run, their DVR, and they want to be on the internet and game with their friends, and they want to do this and that. And now, on the particularly last 6 months, it's like we want to get away from it all. We want enough battery power to run a few lights. We want to be able to run a fan. We probably want to be able to charge maybe a phone or two, and that's it.
yeah.
So it's like they're just done. They just don't want to know about.
Yeah. One of my friends is just in Brisbane. They went north, probably about 3 or 4 hours drive. Bought this block of land in the middle of nowhere. It's just all bush.
Yeah.
Built it. Put down a slab of concrete. Built a shed on there. Put solar on the roof and battery storage in there, and they go there for weekends or a whole week or 2 weeks for school holidays and stuff. Take the kids there. They can charge their stuff off the batteries there or the solar, and they got dirt bikes, and they just go riding their bikes around all day and have picnics and put up a fire at night and cook some snags and stuff, and then go to bed, and everything's fantastic. It just away from people and technology and everything.
Yeah, I think we've come full circle, but we've got to the point where our lives are saturated.
Yep.
And we kind of don't want to know about it.
Yeah.
I found even myself now, I was somebody, as you're aware, I was somebody who would spend many hours in front of the computer. Whether it was playing game, whether it was watching videos, whether it was podcasting, whether it was streaming, whether it was recording, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm lucky if I sit in front of the computer for an hour a night now. Just with everything that's happening and everything that's going on, and technology now to me, has become what it originally was. It is now a tool to get a job done.
Yeah.
Once I've completed that job, I no longer have a use for that tool. Don't get me wrong, I still love it and I still love to play, but now when I do play with technology, for example, I have a full-size floor-to-ceiling server rack sitting over here with a couple of servers in it, and I've got my media center, and I've got my stereo, and I've got my Foxtel, and I've got my internet, and I've got everything running through this. I've got everything running through wall with IR repeaters. And so when I feel the need, I still get really involved in technology.
Yep.
But now I've done that because now it's set up and I don't have to touch it. Yep. I don't have to have 400 cables running behind the TV, and I don't have to there's literally nothing. The TV has the HDMI cable and the power cable running through the wall, because it's on the other side of the wall.
Yep.
And this controls everything else. So I've decluttered everything that was out there. The speakers are now up in the roof. There's no speakers out in the room.
It's a good thing about having your own home. You can do whatever you like.
That's right. But people are like, man, you're mad doing that. I'm like, well, not really. Not okay, it seems like a lot, but it is a lot initially to do. And don't get me wrong, I'm nowhere near completed. I've got heaps to do. But there's a means to an end now. I'm not just doing it for the sake of doing it. 5 years ago, I would have just done it to say, hey, I've got home automation. I can turn my lights on and off, and I can open and close my blinds and turn my aircon on and off.
Yep.
No reason, just because I could. Now, I have a reason to do it. I'm doing it because once it's finished, I can grab my tablet, I can go turn the aircon on, shut the blinds, turn on the TV, let's watch a movie.
Yep. And just sit and relax.
I've now saved myself 20 minutes from having to actually go and do all those things.
Yeah.
So I've really changed the way I look at technology in the last few years. It's quite strange, and it wasn't a deliberate. And particularly since Cam was born, I guess time changed.
Yeah, you get electronic fatigue.
Yeah, it's but apparently I'm not alone. I talk to so many people, and they're all exactly the same. They're all like, no, I'm just sort of I just don't want to know about it. I just want to get away from it. I just want to, I do what I need to do, and then it's done.
Yeah.
So I just sort of wonder where that's heading in terms of, as you said, like your apps are doing so well because they are so simple and basic, and they give the person exactly what they want to need. They don't need to press 43 buttons to get to the screen they want to get to. It's just there.
Yep. Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, are we going full circle, coming back to that?
Yeah, you don't want too
utility.
much crap.
Yeah, that utility thing rather than the gimmick. Because I remember when the Nokia first went to MP3 ringtones, like, oh, who's going to use that? That's a big gimmick. Nobody wants that. Within 12 months, every phone on the market had done that, and it became the standard thing.
Yep.
But are we going back to the point where all my phone needs to do is make a noise to know I know the bloody thing's ringing, and that's all it has to do?
Yeah, forget about it otherwise.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, we powered through a few stories in the last bit of time we got left. This has gone faster than I expected.
Yeah, this is what happens. They should know better. Hey, this is a 2-hour show. It's not our problem.
Yeah.
You're the ones.
Enjoy it. First show of the year. Extended version, director's cut.
And I was going to say quickly, speaking of the complete opposite of what we're just talking about, CES, as we know, in Las Vegas, been and gone again. And the biggest standout this year, I can't believe it. The biggest standout features this year was fridges.
What?
So LG, Samsung, all the big names, powered by Alexia. So basically now most of the fridges have 24-inch and larger monitors.
Yep.
In landscape mode, in portrait mode on the doors. They have, well, in LG's case, of course, they're using the WebOS operating system. Why wouldn't they? They couldn't use it. It worked. Thanks. What's the name for that one?
We saw that fridge before on this show that had Google integration, and then Google retired that API, and suddenly your fridge was completely useless. The monitor on it, it's just a normal fridge.
So basically, in the LG's case, it's got the Alexia personal assistant, which does all your "Hey Alexia, show me how to cook" things.
Yep.
And order groceries and play music and blah blah blah, all that stuff. It's also got a touchscreen, 29-inch. Contains all the capabilities of the company's WebOS, so all three things. The fridge also, and this is the cool part, the fridge has a panoramic camera built into its interior, which users can sync to view the inside of their fridge from the shops. So you can, from your phone, go and look what's inside your fridge.
Have we run out of milk? Hang on, let me just have a look. No, we still got, hang on, zoom, 1/4 of a litre left. Yeah, I think we better get some more.
And then there's a thing called InstaView, which is on the touchscreen. When users double tap the touchscreen, well, it's actually really hard to say. The touchscreen goes translucent, so it basically turns the LCD, opens the LCD pixels up, turns the backlight off, and you can see through it. Right. And you can actually see what's inside the fridge.
Now, you bloody kids, you have a look through there before you open the fridge and put the power bill up.
And Samsung has done similar. The viewer side cameras. They've got, it knows where stuff goes in the fridge, and it knows when, because it has a camera inside the fridge, it can tell when the milk's running low, and it can put it in the purchase order for you. So when you go there, it can order things. If you want to cook brownies, for example, you can just say, I want to cook this, and hit order, and it will order all the stuff online for you. It's got a bulletin board as well. Like, you can actually do handwritten notes and all that stuff you expect, because I'm guessing it's running
Feed the damn dog.
They're also doing, and this is actually something that I'm kind of not excited, but I think it's actually pretty cool. They're releasing a product known as a smarter fridge cam. So what this does is this goes on the inside of the fridge door. So once the door's closed, it can look inside the fridge. But it basically does all the same things as the proper smart fridge would do. So it lets you look what's inside it, does item tracking, it does all that sort of stuff. So when you go to the supermarket and see what's inside your fridge. And it's quite cheap. They haven't released prices on it yet, but they reckon it's going to be around $200. Which, if you think about it, if you've already got a good fridge, You've just bought one with an ice maker and all that sort of stuff. You don't want to go and buy a new smart fridge. But for a couple $100, it would almost be worth buying one of these things. Because I know that, like, actually, I went shopping tonight and I couldn't remember whether I bought Cam yogurt and milk last night when I went shopping or whether I meant to buy it and forgot.
Yeah.
So I bought it again. It turns out I bought it last night as well. So actually, I wouldn't mind. For $200, I could justify spending that on something that has that function. The only thing is I put one in my pantry as well. So I have one in my fridge and one in my pantry. So I reckon that would also be an important thing. But yeah, so believe it or not, out of all the innovations and everything and all the new developments and all the new things that have been released, the smart fridges this year took the show at CES.
And your computer could soon be running noticeably slower. An Australian security expert says, as the world's computer industry scrambles to counter two major flaws just discovered in the design of almost all of the world's processors. Security research have disclosed a pair of security flaws dubbed Meltdown and Spectre. Cool names. They say could let hackers steal sensitive information from nearly every modern computing device, from smartphones and laptops to the machines that power the internet. The former is specific to Intel processors, which power the majority of computers and cloud servers, and can be negated by a software update issued to the computer's operating system. These updates, which will come as automatic downloads for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, are important for users to protect their machines and information. The downside is that patched machines will be less efficient. You may lose anywhere between 15 to 30% of your computer's power. Things like starting software or browsing the internet might actually slow right down. The meltdown flaw affects the so-called kernel memory on Intel x86 processor chips manufactured over the past decade, potentially allowing users of normal applications to discern the layout or content of protected areas on the chips. This theoretically allows hackers to exploit other security bugs, or worse, read data directly from the kernel of a processor, potentially gaining access to information previously thought to be unreadable as the machine processes them. One of the researchers of Graz University Technology who discovered Meltdown calls it probably one of the worst CPU bugs ever found. Currently, the way the memory is accessed by the operating system, it can access both the kernel memory and the user memory at the same time, in the same context. What needs to happen to prevent this vulnerability is the operating system needs to switch from the user context to the kernel context and then switch back again, which is going to slow down performance. The second flaw, Spectre, affects chips from Intel, AMD, and ARM and lets hackers potentially trick otherwise error-free applications into giving up secret information. It'll be much harder to patch than Meltdown and impact a broader range of machines, the researchers say, but also be much harder for attackers to use. The researchers say Apple and Microsoft have patches ready for users for desktop computers affected by Meltdown. Microsoft and Apple did not immediately return requests for comment, but fixes have apparently been spotted in recent Mac OS updates and Windows Insider builds. Intel has acknowledged the researchers' report and says it's working on a solution that will not significantly slow down computers.
And what's interesting is this started, 24 hours ago with a vulnerability in the i9 chip?
Yep.
And has since gone back to every processor since 1996. Now,
and apparently Google discovered it about 6 months ago and told everyone there, you're like, yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, well, it doesn't surprise me. But what's interesting is in the article, and in this article I'm reading, it states that AMD's affected, yet I'm looking at a press release like an hour ago from AMD saying that...
No, we're not.
AMD has clarified its position and believes that there is a near zero risk to its processors. So even like they still reckon they've run all the tests and they reckon that their processors aren't affected.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
So yay for AMD, another win. It was actually funny on the it's interesting because this is the first Intel computer I've had.
Yep.
This is i7. And I swear, this thing is the most unstable, unreliable computer I've ever owned. It crashes.
It has been for you, yeah, hasn't it?
It's horrendous. But prior to that, I've only ever had AMDs. And I was on the Aussie Tech Heads Facebook page the other night talking about, I was kind of being sarcastic. I said, yay, another win for AMD. And they're like, what do you mean? And I was sort of like, okay, well, I've got to explain myself. I basically said, look, depending on what you're doing, no one processor is better than the other processor. So in a benchmark test, Intel's generally come out on top. But in reality, for what I do, which is predominantly video, well, not lately, but was predominantly video editing, screen capping, game capture, that sort of stuff, and the games were handled predominantly by the video cards rather than the processor anyway.
Yep.
The AMD performed faster in the rendering and the capturing and had better, it's generally more reliable use case as well.
Yep.
Than even this one I've got now. And this system I've got now is faster than the last AMD I had, but the last AMD handled it better.
Yep.
And I said, look, if you're doing hardcore gaming and stuff like that, then yeah, absolutely, the Intel is going to be a faster processor. If you want a workhorse that's going to plod along and going to do the processing and the rendering and that sort of things quicker, you want AMD. So it's really horses for courses. Personally, I've always used AMD. I've found them to be, well, they're cheaper, which is, for me, a main reason I use them.
Yep.
For me, but I've always found them quicker. I've found them more reliable. I found them more stable. I found them just a bulletproof system. But my old AMD 850, so that's 99, 2000,
yep,
that system is still going. It's actually currently sitting in my server rack here being used as a firewall. So, you know, I don't have any Intel systems. Like, I've been given some as hand-me-downs and whatever, and I find after 4 or 5 years they're done.
I'd just like to add also Citrix was terrible.
So it wasn't terrible. It wasn't any worse.
It was. If I tried to install a game, the CPU would crash and lock up.
The Citrix 6, the 586, wasn't it? Yeah, 586. It was effectively an overclocked 486 processor. I mean, come on. That's what do you expect? It was terrible purely for the fact that I think it was rushed. But without that, we wouldn't have had the 586 architecture AMD. So
there you go.
You know, I mean, it was an IBM chip, but they sort of used what they'd learnt, and then AMD sort of took over from there. But actually, it's funny you should mention that. I was digging through my old laptop pile out the back trying to find something the other day, and I didn't realise I had it. There was a Citrix processor laptop.
Yep.
I didn't know they did one. It was still a black and white screen and had the passive. Black and white, 16 color passive TFT screen, which is the one if you ever had the Star simulation screensaver, it looked like you were going through hyperspace.
Yep. And you could watch it like this, but you couldn't watch it like that.
Yeah. You had to sit exactly in front of the screen. You had to have the light in exactly the right spot.
It's good for privacy.
Oh, fantastic for privacy. And if you typed it more than about 3 words a minute, you couldn't read what you were typing.
Yeah.
I love that. Was my first laptop. Was one of those. And the screen was squidgy.
Yep.
You'd wipe it and it'd ripple all the way through the screen.
Yeah.
But so I think as you said, the current patch at the moment is having major performance hits. Having said that, I don't think the average person has to worry about this as a vulnerability per se. It's not something that the average person. The data that they're going to collect isn't going to be an issue. It's mainly for,
data centers
and things like that, where there's, even then, man, the amount of random data that you'd happen to stumble across in that particular memory chunk. Yes, technically it's a vulnerability, but really, is it that much of an issue? Like, how much data can they collect in, that one random part of memory that's refreshing? You know what I mean? I don't know. I guess if it was a specific security system for something, or a hotel, or a casino, or a bank, or something like that, yeah, maybe.
Yep.
That would probably be something you need to worry about. But it's not one of those vulnerabilities that you have to go out right now and put a patch on for. Especially with the memory, with the performance hit you're going to cop at the moment, because it's a software patch, not a hardware patch. So it's literally translating. It's basically translating everything to software. And from hardware to software back to hardware again. It's acting like a firewall, sort of, from the way I understand it, from what I've read. It'll
probably be a forced update though, so you're going to get it whether you want it or not.
It may be. It's not at the moment, even though everybody's got patches out for it. We'll see. It'll probably come in one of those security update rollout things, which I never install.
Yeah.
So,
And Bitcoin's had a bit of a rocky end to the year. After clearing the $25,000 mark earlier in December and lead up to Christmas, its value plummeted and people panicked, especially new Bitcoin investors who thought that going was good. It seemed everyone wanted to get rid of their coins before it dropped any further, but where exactly can you spend your Bitcoins in Australia anyway? As it turns out, not very many places.
I accept Bitcoin. I accept Bitcoin.
Yep. You want to give me a couple of Bitcoin? I'm happy with that.
Yeah, that's right.
Over the past few years, several companies have accepted Bitcoin as payment for goods and services. Some of the most notable are Dell, Steam, OkCupid, and Microsoft. However, although Bitcoin's price rocketed upwards, most of these services stopped offering Bitcoin as an option. Of the 4 listed there, it's only Microsoft that still allows you to do, with Dell, Steam, and OkCupid pulling their support for the cryptocurrency in the last year. These services generally offer luxury buys, not necessities, so perhaps the uptake hasn't been as strong as anticipated in those areas. Indeed, that's why Dell stopped offering Bitcoin as payment option earlier this year. How about products you buy daily, though? Coffee, lunch, public transport tickets, fuel? You won't find too many places to spend your Bitcoin for those either. CoinMap provides a heat map of places around Australia and New Zealand where Bitcoin is accepted as payment, and you can see in the website that most of the activity is focused in the major urban areas along the east coast of Australia. Within Sydney's CBD, a smattering of 41 restaurants, financiers, Bitcoin ATMs and bars are the only places the currency can be used. Most of these locations, but for the ATMs, appear to be small businesses. The same can be said for Melbourne, which probably claim Australia's Bitcoin capital, if that's the title they're really after, with 54 CBD locations. Again, they're mostly small businesses. There's even a podiatrist that apparently accepts Bitcoin as payment. No small feat. So, I've recently joined up to a new exchange and converted most of my Ethereum and Litecoin into Ripple, which I'm hoping is going to see some good upswing.
Bitcoin's weird. I don't understand why. When did it start? 2013-ish? And it was flat till basically the start of 2017. And then during 2017, it went from nothing. It almost hit $30,000 at one point.
Yep.
It's currently sitting at 18,500.
But if my site, it's 21,000.
Well, this is off Google, updated like a few seconds ago. So it's dropped. It's been dropping since Christmas.
Yeah.
But okay, that sounds like a lot. But I remember back in 2013, 2014, I bought $50 worth of Bitcoins.
Yep.
Which got me, I don't know how many 100 Bitcoins or something. I can't remember what I paid nothing for it. I remember that.
Yep.
And then I lost my wallet and didn't think anything of it because it was for the next 3 years it wasn't worth anything.
I thought it was just going to be a fad, so I didn't bother. I mean, we've had internet currency in the past where people are like, oh, we got this new cash system that's going to... It wasn't PayPal, but it was like a beans on the net or something like this. And then that ended up dying. I was like, Bitcoin, that's going to be another one of those stupid things.
That's what I mean. I thought, I'll throw $50 at it. What's it matter? And then like 12 months later, I lost my wallet when a hard drive crashed and whatever. It's still worth basically nothing.
Yep.
And then 12 months later, it's still worth basically nothing. And 12 months after that, it's still worth nothing. And then I basically forgot about it.
Yep.
And then suddenly it was worth 30 grand. I went,
what?
Where's that wallet I had had like Bitcoins in it?
Yeah. Well, there's over 1,000 different cryptocurrencies now, so you can take your pick, and they're all constantly going up and down like the share market and speculation.
And this is the problem now. This is what cryptocurrency was supposed to alleviate. It was supposed to alleviate this problem of segmented currency.
Yep.
But it's now its own worst.
Decentralize it.
It's now doing exactly what it was designed not to do. So I don't really know. Is there an answer? Like, I mean, it's not like you can go, hey, I want to put, $50 on each one of them.
Yeah.
You kind of got to maybe narrow it down to 2 or 3 of them, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I've done. But there are people in the US who are remortgaging their paid off homes so that they can invest all of that in Bitcoin solely.
I mean, people are calling Bitcoin, but calling cryptocurrency in general Ponzi schemes.
Yeah.
Which, I guess to a point they are, because there's no backing. But having said that, most first world currencies, like particularly the Australian dollar, for example, isn't backed anymore anyway.
No,
we're working off the face value of the money, not what the money is actually worth.
Yeah.
So
nothing is backed by gold anymore.
No. So it's like, well, does that make the normal Australian dollar or the American dollar or any other currency more or less valuable than a virtual currency? Like, technically, a virtual currency is probably more secure and more reliable.
Just don't lose your wallet.
Just don't lose.
Or if you've got it on a market, then they can get hacked as well and lose stuff. So
well, this is the other thing, like
half.
but that's no different than having your money in the bank.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what happened in America 3 or 4 years ago. All the banksters went, "Hey, we're broke. We got no money. See ya."
Yeah.
So I mean.
So the president's like, "Oh, here's the money," and they're like, "Cool, we'll give our CEO and
give our CEO and all our investors the money." Yeah.
Sorry, there's still no money left for the normal people.
So I don't know. I would love if somebody started a podcast so we could discuss this sort of thing. It'd be great.
Yeah. Aussie crypto.
That's it. Ugh, that sounds like a viral infection.
It is. It's exactly what it is.
You need to go to the doctor to get that cleared up. But yeah, as I say, like, I know there's a little cafe. The cafe next to us at work accepts like 12 different cryptocurrencies.
Wow. I don't know of anything that does, but I live in a small country town now.
Well, he's the only one I know. Like, there's this little cafe in the middle of an industrial estate. He's just
I want a cup of coffee. How many Ethereum is that now? Oh, we don't do Ethereum this week, just Ripple.
No, he seems to do them all. I was chatting to him. They're on holidays at the moment, but I was chatting to him before they went away. And he's like, over the holidays, he's getting all his point of sale sorted, so it's got access to all of them, so I can bring up real time on what they're worth. So, because people obviously, being crypto, you can have it on your phone. You literally do the whole PayWave deal. You just tell the FPOS machine that you're accepting this currency and it's this amount, and they do the PayWave thing with the phone, and you pay it. It's so much simpler than it was when cryptocurrency first started. It was a right real pain in the ass. You had to transfer, you had to log into your wallet, then transfer the access to somebody else so they could do this and palm it off to them. And
I got a plan onto it. He's finally done a little bit of investment there, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's something I need to look into as well. It'd be interesting to see. It would be interesting, actually, to just say throw $10 on 10 of them and track it over the next 6 months or 12 months and just see what happens.
Yeah.
Even just as a sort of a reference point as to what potentially could happen. I mean, there's nothing to say that you couldn't throw $10. I mean, $10 on a Bitcoin sounds like nothing.
Yeah.
But realistically, if you throw $10 on a Bitcoin and it skyrockets, it still could be.
They call it to the moon. You got to have the right terminology for this crypto stuff. To the moon.
So yeah, it's it'll be interesting to see what happens. But something I need to get into and start learning a bit more. I think it's going to become some form. It's going to be. Remember Bartercard?
Yep.
I think it's going to be a similar sort of process to Bartercard.
Well, this is one of the reasons why I've gone into Ripple. It's created by the banks, and they're looking at replacing the SWIFT system with Ripple protocols, because if you use SWIFT at the moment, the company I work for is in the US. If they pay me on Wednesday, I might get paid into my bank account by Friday, or computers don't work Saturday and Sunday, so it can't be then.
Right? What's that about?
And then Monday you might get it, or even Tuesday, but if they install Ripple, they've compared the speeds and they can do it in microseconds anywhere around the world. So it doesn't mean that your bank account is now suddenly going to be Ripple and you're going to go down to Maya and buy thongs with half a Ripple or something like that. It's just using that protocol they put it in there. They say, okay, here's your weekly pay. That converts it onto the Ripple platform. That zoop straight across into your bank almost. More than you can blink, it's so fast.
But I mean, that technically can happen with any transfer. It's only because they're too lazy to do anything about it.
Yeah.
The only interesting thing with that is, are they going to charge you a conversion fee? Because at the moment, I know I use
I don't get charged conversion fee for Swift payments from the US to
okay.
Australia.
I don't know a lot about Swift. I've only just signed up to it
Ing
because
doesn't. That's why I went with that Ing
I
you
know ING.
recommended.
I know
'Cause
ING doesn't.
Bankwest did. They're like, we're going to charge you $10 to $20 to get paid by your company. I'm like, you what? No.
Yeah.
This is pay going into you and you're going to use it on the stock market to make money. Why are you charging me money? Because we can. Okay, well, I'm moving to a new bank. You didn't think that, did you? Got to the new bank. Hi, I'd also like to get a home loan with you. Brilliant. Sorry, last
Yep.
bank. You've just shot yourself in the foot.
Yep. Well, it's exactly the same thing. I'm with ING. We've now got our home insurance with ING. We've got our car insurance with ING. We've got 2 credit cards. We've got all our bank accounts, my supers with ING. And in 3 years' time, once this home loan processes, it'll be going to ING as well.
Yep.
And I don't know, have you got it, the new thing they've just introduced?
The new personalized
The-
payment system.
No, the change back. The what do they call it? Rounding up facility.
Oh, no.
So you can set it up so that if you to either the nearest dollar or the nearest $5.
Yep.
So if you spend $3 and you've got it set to round up to the nearest $5, it'll throw the other $2 into your savings account.
Oh, it's like Acorn.
It's brilliant. You don't notice it because you think in your mind, if something's $4.50, you round up to $5 anyway.
Yeah.
So when you pay $4.50 for it and you lose that extra 50 cents that goes into your savings account, you don't think about it.
Yeah.
So at the end of the month, I looked in my savings account and I had like $500 in there,
Where did that come from?
which was the house repayment covered.
Ah, nice. No, I
So,
haven't heard about that one.
yeah,
I
it's a
heard
new
they
one
got
that
a
just
new
introduced.
payment system that's going to go to all the banks where you could call, instead of having your account number and your BSB, you could
Yeah.
just call it wheel@gmail.com, and if I want to send you money, I just send it to wheel@gmail.com through the banking system. and
It's
then
like
it goes
PayPal
straight
without the
to you.
fees.
Yeah. Wonder who they're taking on. Oh, maybe somebody
Hey,
will.
do you know
listen.
that eBay doesn't own PayPal anymore?
Yeah, they.
I don't know when.
Sold it.
Somehow I missed that from happening, but our eBay, we've got an eBay rep. Go figure. I don't know even why, but anyway, we've got an eBay rep, and he rang. I goes, "Why haven't you used to say because our PayPal account's still screwed and we can't access it." Oh, I can't help you with that. Give us a call back once you've got that sorted. Like, hang on, don't you own PayPal? No, we haven't owned them for a while. I'm like, well, I missed that one.
Get with a program, Will.
I know, right?
Speaking of the program, thanks for listening to the Aussie Tech Head Show, broadcast weekly.
If you're still here, thanks. We appreciate it.
We can be found at facebook.com/Aussie Tech Heads, twitter.com/Aussie Tech Heads, and you guessed it, youtube.com/Aussie Tech Heads. Email is Glenn at Aussie Tech Heads, Will, Warlock, or Eric at aussietechheads.com.au. You can hear Aussie Tech Heads on Aussie Tech Radio, 24/7 back-to-back play of some of the best tech-related shows from Australia and New Zealand. New shows added every Friday. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and all that sort of stuff down there.
Tell us how much I hate iPhones again. Go on.
Yeah.
Go on. There you.
And we'll probably catch you next week. I won't be here, but Glenn probably will be, and who else he managed to drag along. Have a good week. Bye.
Thanks, guys. See ya.